Invisible clues. Things that are not visible to the human eye are not invisible to the eye of a forensic investigator. A single fingerprint, a delicate fiber, a hair, and even a droplet of saliva can be invisible clues that will help investigators track down a suspect. They can provide the evidence that the suspect was at a certain place and can be used to help solve a crime. The collection and examination of these clues and their use in solving crime and providing evidence in a court of law is known as forensic science or forensics. How investigations begin. Solving a crime usually begins at the scene of a crime. Investigators seal off the crime scene to the public. This is to protect any clues or evidence from being tampered with or destroyed. If the crime scene is outdoors, investigators need to work quickly. Wind, rain, and heat can damage or remove any possible clues. Investigators take many photographs at the scene of a crime, close up, far away, and from every angle. They draw diagrams and make notes of what they see and also make notes of what they think may be missing. They mark the exact spot where things are found. The clues they find at the crime scene may be the only proof they have that will help catch and convict a suspect. Investigators are very, very careful at a crime scene. Any mistakes made in collecting and recording the evidence could end in an unsolved crime. How investigators search for evidence. Investigators need to know where and how to search for evidence and how to collect it. They know that any person involved in a crime often leaves at the scene or takes away with them some tiny clue, evidence that they were at the crime scene. These tiny clues are called trace evidence. Some trace evidence is easy to spot, some is not. Trace evidence can be a sample of hair, a small piece of glass, or even dry saliva on a straw. Fingerprints are one of the most important types of evidence that can be found at a crime scene. Investigators always wear gloves and are careful not to touch or move anything unless they have to. Fingerprints can easily be smudged or wiped away. Investigators search the crime scene for any easily seen fingerprints. They photograph them and make notes about their exact location. They also search for anything that may have been touched or moved or that looks out of place. Any of these things could reveal a hidden fingerprint. A tire print or shoe print is called impression evidence. They can give investigators important information about a subject. For example, shoe prints can tell the investigators the size and the weight of a suspect. They can also show if the person was walking or running. A tire print can be tracked to the vehicle that left it. If the crime scene is outdoors, investigators may need to put up a shelter, as this type of evidence is easily washed away. How investigators collect and record evidence. Investigators may use tweezers, tape, or a scalpel to collect trace evidence. Sometimes they may use a special vacuum cleaner to pick up evidence that is too small to be seen by the naked eye. When the evidence has been lifted, it is placed into bags or containers and labeled. Investigators photograph any evidence and make notes about exactly where it was found. Different types of powders and brushes can be used to reveal fingerprints. Investigators dab the tip of the brush into a fine powder and gently dust a small amount onto any surfaces that may have fingerprints. The powder sticks to any latent prints. Investigators keep brushing until the patterns of the fingerprints can be seen. They photograph the prints and cover them with a transparent tape. The tape can also be used to lift the fingerprints from the surface. The superglue method is also sometimes used to reveal latent fingerprints. Investigators often use this method as it does not destroy a faint fingerprint in the way that brushing with powders can. Investigators place some superglue and an object that needs to be tested into a sealed container. The superglue, when heated, turns into a vapor. The vapor sticks to the oils and sweat in fingerprints and forms a white substance. Investigators then photograph the visible fingerprints. They will not usually lift these prints with tape, as tape can destroy them. Tire prints and shoe prints can be found in mud, snow, sand, and soil. Investigators first photograph the impression. They then remove any twigs or leaves lying loosely on top of it. A metal frame is placed around the impression. The impression is then sprayed with a special spray. This helps to harden any loose dust or dirt. A powder is mixed with water. Investigators gently pour the mixture into the impression. When the mixture has dried completely, investigators can lift the impression. How evidence is analyzed. Once all the evidence at the crime scene has been collected, sealed, and labeled, investigators send it to a crime laboratory for further testing. Fingerprints can provide an exact method of identifying a person. A computer can very quickly compare one set of prints against a library of 500,000 prints. It comes up with a list of prints that closely match the ones from the crime scene. A fingerprint expert then compares the prints and makes the final match. Forensic scientists can examine tiny DNA strands in hair or skin cells found at a crime scene. Each person's DNA is different from another person's, except for identical twins. Scientists use a method that makes copies of the tiny strands of DNA, like fingerprints. A computer can compare the DNA against thousands of others. Once the computer comes up with a match, the scientists will check and make the final decision. Forensic science cannot find and convict a criminal on its own. Some evidence is so sensitive that any mistakes can be confusing and can lead to different conclusions. But forensic science can give investigators the clues they need to help find and prove a suspect committed a crime. It is sometimes the only tool that will prove the guilty and clear the innocent.